It certainly is a dreadful kind of paradox to try to philosophize one's way out of philosophy. And I'm, in a sense, sort of stuck in that position. But being that it is a paradoxical um, position, is there really a position at all? Um, a paradox, by its very nature, is something you can't really locate. You can't pin it down. You can't say exactly what is going on. And so, as I continue to philosophize in order to clear away the barrier between what I think, what I know, and what I am, what I do, I continue to express that paradox. And so I really feel your confusion. I was going to say your pain, but the confusion is this mixture of pain and pleasure, and it sort of oscillates. And when I feel as though I have reached a philosophical, not conclusion, but a philosophical insight, when I see clearly, I get a sense of pleasure, accomplishment. But then that clarity, the concepts that I've elucidated, which have shed light on the relationship between two aspects of life, it becomes dull, it collects dust, it gets old, and then I feel pain. So, this continual act of creating insightful ways of contextualizing philosophical issues, feeling the pleasure of that experience, and then having that conceptualization grow old and fragile and begin to fracture and become something which needs further creation. That's pain. And so this pleasure and pain um, dichotomy is always pushing me forward. And I've been reading Carl Jung's this book that is it's about Kundalini Yoga, about a lecture that Carl Jung gave with the Indologist, the Indian scholar, East Indian scholar, Wilhelm Hauer in the 30s. And I've only read the introduction, but through the introduction, I've come to see that when Westerners try to take Eastern mysticism and translate it into their own culture, they have to realize that it is a translation. And it's, by translation, I don't mean it's exactly equivalent to anything that we can understand from our historical context. Translations are never perfect um, conveyances of what was originally expressed um, in the original culture, because that culture has its own historical milieu and it's embedded in that history. And when we try to look to the east for a new way of approaching spirituality and religion, all we can do is adapt it to our already historically situated position. And for me, I actually got into Eastern mysticism, Buddhism, Vedanta, Taoism, Zen, before I got into philosophy. And I used the semantic tricks, maybe, that I had learned in Eastern texts to deconstruct a lot of philosophy, and it became fun for me to almost laugh at the deeply rooted subject-object dichotomies in most of Western thought that, from the Eastern perspective, don't even seem to exist. And yet, still, from the Western perspective, they most certainly do exist. I am an individual, and there's a society out there of others with their own views and opinions, their own personal truths about what reality is, what their own experience is, what they value most, and so on. And I, as one of those individuals, cannot claim to have any better insight into the nature of reality than anybody else.